All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report Town Hall session live from the Panari Hotel right here on Mombasa Road. We're talking about the CBC Blackboard, the last of our series here. We're talking about life skills and values. And still, Dr. Piri Tingina is here with me, Evidence Manager, Zizi Afrique Foundation, and Dr. Samuel Mucheleli, Lecturer, Department of Educational Psychology at the Kenyatta University. There's a lot of feedback coming through. Let me read just a few of them before I get quick remarks from my audience in terms of what they recommend. Dimuli Kahi, who's the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association chairperson, says, hi, life skills must be developed through training. In 844, we were expected to teach life skills, but because of our overemphasis on examinations and life skills was not being tested, it's not taught. Pre-service teacher education training at TTC and schools of education in our universities must equip the teacher with how best life skills can be taught. The competences needed must be taught to the teacher first. Expectations of parents and teachers of each has currently is not well spelled out. All right, Jemima, I'd like to hear your views on that, but let's start back there and start with your name and tell us what your thoughts are going forward and what you recommend. Yes, sir. Slightly louder. Louder, Arnold. Yes.
My concern is we go back to charity begins at home.
Okay.
At home. There's an aspect of which kind of home are we speaking about, because we have some dysfunctional home. So we see where the root of the problem, first of all, is coming from. We can't expect a bad tree to bear a good fruit. So when we talk about some of this dysfunctional home, how are they going to play some roles on the charity we are speaking about? And then I jump forward to the part of self-awareness. To our psychologists, the question is innate or genetics playing a role in self-awareness? Because this aspect of self-awareness where we're getting around 6% of the students, are these more about genetics or they are more of is a culture or nurture, some sort of?
All right, Dr. Mutuleli, so you'll tell us whether genetics plays a role. All right, pass the microphone there.
Okay, I'm Brian Collins, and I have a question that I've been asked by parents. My neighbors are parents, so they have been asking, what's your take on claims that CBC is a great idea, but whose implementation is being rushed? This is due to the task force that was formed by President Ruto to review the curriculum.
Great idea, but it is being rushed. That's a question you're asking. All right, Jemima, I'd like to hear your views on that as well. Yes.
I'm Eunice Nganga, assistant to a CBC student. My question is, what informed the proposal to the 844 system to the 263 system? Why didn't we just improve the 844 system?
Okay. All right, yes, we can pass the microphone to the front. Over here. Yes.
Thank you, Trevor, and thank you, the panelists, and thanks for the Citizen TV for this good opportunity. I support CBC. As CBC is working and will work. Only if we get the like-minded people with a good attitude towards our prince and princess. My concern is this task or the homework that have been given to our kings and princes in regard to the charity begins at home. You give my son or my daughter a certain task. This task, I as a parent, have never done it. It's new to me. Maybe it's new because it's been modernized. In our ages, such a task was not there. So how will I, as a parent, try to assist this boy or this girl of mine? I just send him or her away. So the following day, the child will go back to the class. Remember, he or she had an assignment, and it has not been done. So the following day, because of the fear of the unknown, the teacher will first check from the checklist who have not done, who have done. Now the child has that fear. The fear will be growing from the peer pressure from the dear students to an extent to come into depression.
Okay.
As a society, as the good panelists, as we the stakeholders, the three, I, you, and we, what are we best doing towards our prince and princess? Thank you.
Jemima, you can start with that directly because you're a teacher as well. How do you handle such a situation where a child has been given an assignment, the parent themselves don't understand the assignment, they've never done it before, then the child comes back and the assignment is not done?
Yes, thank you so much, Trevor. With the assignments, the extended activities, I would advise, it is parent engagement. If you are not able to facilitate, and I believe before we reach to a certain state such that the child is supposed to go home with that work, they have done some steps with the teacher. Give that child, that is when you're bringing out the skill. Is this child a problem solver? I had an issue in my class where we were supposed to mount some serials to form images. Then we did not have glue. But one boy told me, teacher, the other day when I was at home, when you told us to stick, I took wheat flour, mixed it with water, and it was sticky. Then I was able to stick. I knew that. But it came out from a child. This child is a problem solver. Let us give these children opportunities. That is why we are no longer teachers, we are facilitators. We are just giving out guidelines. And in this process, some of these children, Trevor, are coming out with better solutions. So parents, let us not take it much into ourselves. Let us leave it to the children. If the child is not able, I'm so passionate about children. And before I ask the child on what happened, I need to listen. Remember communication and collaboration. I need to understand. Then ask the child, what do you think we should do? Involve the child. Together, you may even find that the child is educating you. The other day in grade 5 mathematical activity, when you look at multiplication, there are multiple methods of multiplication. So when I gave out the extended activity, the child did not understand in class. So the father was like, okay, let us do together. For me, I was not marking the answer, and that is where we are missing. 844 is all about the answer and performance. But with this CBC, how did you come up with that? So the parent ended up misguiding the child, and the child got 0. So the child was like, teacher, first let us be friends. There's a difference between fear and respect. The child can fear you and akose kukuheshimu. So the child was like, give me the phone. I talked to my father. And I gave him the phone and he was like, now, Daddy, can you see the problems you have put me into? So there are some of the things that we are doing and messing up these children. If we are not able to guide them, not in the diary, let the child do what he can. And in that way, you may never know. You may come up with solutions. And that is one of the competencies. Problem solving through critical thinking.
But teacher, we were never brought up like that. You understand? I mean, even when we were being brought up, the parent laid down the law. In fact, even this idea of calling your father is still foreign to some of us. I mean, that is not how you interacted. You take instructions and that's it. So is it time now then to change this perspective and the way we relate with our learners?
Yes, and that is why I appreciate CBC. It nurtures an all-round learner, and it gives opportunities for every child. It is time now we set aside the traditional way of 844, the way we were brought up, and adjust to the new normal for the sake of our children. We need to do that, Trevor.
Okay, Dr. Mutulele, I'll come to you in terms of the psychology and whether genetics plays a role, but there's a concern there. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. Okay, basically, the main task here lies to the teachers. So my question is the training period that the teachers are going through enough for them to get the necessary skills, the necessary knowledge to impact to the students? Okay. Doctor has already said there that these skills are not something that you can catch. These are things that need to be impacted to the students. So is the time period for the teachers are being trained, is it enough?
Yeah. Okay. You remember you can answer that because also in Dimuli Kahi brought that up, said that the teachers have to be taught fast before they teach the learners? Is the training period enough? Do you feel ready for the CBC, or do you need more training?
That is why I appreciate the task force, and I believe it will be one of the main solutions. Teachers need to be taken through regular trainings since we are already in the system. So teachers need regular trainings for us to be comfortable handling this child. You know, when the teacher is well equipped with knowledge, the teacher is even able to explain to the parent on what is expected. Today I will call the parents, this is how you're supposed to do the parent engagement. Tomorrow I will go. When I come back with better solutions. So teachers need regular training for them to be effective.
All right.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Mutole, let me bring you back on this. There was a question in terms of whether genetics plays a role, and I think now that opens up the age-old discussion of nature versus nurture.
Thank you, Trevor. And I begin by saying you are who you are, Trevor, today because of genetics, because genetics gave you the potential to be who you are. But now the environment comes in to exploit that potential to the fullest. So you may be born with the abilities, yes, but if you are not given the right environment, you are not going to see the full potential of your abilities. When you talk of self-awareness, and that's what was asked, whether genetics plays a role or not, I would say yes, genetics will give you the potential, because self-awareness, one of the aspects is to know about your strengths, your weaknesses, and so on. Genetics will give the children the potential to succeed in whatever field, for example, be it mathematics, be it English, in whatever subject area, or even in problem-solving tasks. Genetics will give them that potential. But now the teacher has to come in, the parent has to come in, the society has to come in now to assist this pupil or to assist this child to develop that capacity to use the strength which the genetics have. So I would say yes. And the question is not how much genetics are contributing or how much the environment is contributing. It is the two working together to produce the person we want.
All right.
Thank you,
Dr. Ngina, there was a concern about CBC being a great idea, but it was rushed, and then there was also a concern that we should have just improved the 844 system. What are your views on that?
I think from where I sit, when I look at the work we are doing and the importance of these competencies that were not there during the 844 system, I think CBC is good. And if you look at most discoveries, whether it's someone who started the airplane or whatever, they started somewhere. And then every day there's an improvement. So we cannot just stay there and say, we are not going to start. We needed to start. We have realized their gaps. We have a task force that we are waiting for them to give us feedback. So CBC seemed to be a promising curriculum. Because if you look at the exam that was done this year in April, and we did a very nice press release after the exams, it shows that 60% of our learners got a D+ and below. So what is the story? That the 844 curriculum had a lot of wastage. Wastage in terms of most of the people we went to school with. If you go back, maybe only 2 of you are somewhere, or 3 of you. The others are for sure struggling. So that is not a good curriculum. So as much as we're saying whether it needed to be improved, it needed to be what, it didn't need any massaging. We just needed a new start. And that is a fresh start we have at the CBC. But let me also, Trevor, go back to the findings and what needs to be done. And I appreciate what the principal Machakos boys have said, Kahi, about the teacher training. I'm a trained teacher. And when I was being trained, I went through so many courses of mathematics and chemistry because I'm a teacher of maths and chemistry. But only 2 courses on how to teach, one to teach chemistry and how to teach mathematics, right? That means my pedagogical approaches were very limited because I didn't get enough time. And so there's need, even in the university. I was telling Dr. Mutweredi, because he's in the university, that many universities, you'll hear them saying that the train left the station, the CBC train left the station, yeah. And now we have motorbikes. Let them use a motorbike and catch up. We need to have people who are thinking, because in 2029 they'll have these children getting to the university. But even now, they are training teachers who will come and teach junior secondary and senior secondary. You cannot train them the same way I was trained. So there's need for everybody to play a very important role and not to, I know sometimes change is very uncomfortable. It requires us to have a paradigm shift on how we think, how we approach things, but we must do it because we cannot remain where we were 1990 when I was born and we're still using the same. We need to change.
Yeah.
A country like Armenia has implemented chess for children up to grade 4 compulsory as a way of nurturing these competencies. So you see, a country can decide how can we facilitate acquisition of these competencies. I know Teacher Jemima has talked about the activities they are doing and practical, but what is this thing that we can do all of us that is standardized, that every child is going through it, that nurture or help in developing these competencies? I know in junior secondary, we shall have community service learning compulsory for all learners, and I'm hoping that there they can get these competencies. But also people who have done neuroscience, and Dr. Mutwereni being a psychologist understand this better than me, it is easier to wire a new house rather than a brain that has already been developed, the neurons have been connected and all that. So we need also something that is uniform for these up to grade 6, something that everyone can implement, you know, so that one doesn't implement just this activity, another one is implementing another one doesn't even know what needs to be done. So we need to probably, as we move forward, to think, what is this that we can use in all the schools that will facilitate? Is it community learning service that need also to start at a very earlier age? Of course, I know some parents will be uncomfortable because the children are quite young. Yeah. So these are things that we can look into as stakeholders in education. But I think we need to make such a decision so that even parents understand, what is my role? If you tell a parent that community service is a way of training these competencies, and every parent has a uniform, there is a framework, they are guided, then it becomes so easy. Even in the amount of money that is spent on the training and sensitization and creating awareness, it will not be as much as when you are implementing this one, another is trying this one, another one is being trained on different models. So I think we have to get to the level where we have a specific practical activity that can be used in all the schools, so that we give all the children the same foundation.
All right, we're running out of time here, but I'd like to hear generally from yourself as well and the rest of the audience in terms of what you recommend going forward for CBC, because I see here also another finding is that overall 1 in 10 of the adolescents are proficient in collaboration. So these things are somehow interlinked: collaboration, self-awareness, all that. But what do you recommend going forward? If there's one thing you'd recommend, and I'll start with you, Jemima, as you pass the microphone across to the task force, what do you recommend for CBC going forward as we wind up on this?
Yeah. Thank you, Trevor. But before I continue, there's something that is touching me on the extended activity. Okay. And I feel that I should answer the parent positively behind me. You know, you may not understand. I have given a learner to go and make a toy. What are parents doing? They are buying the toys. They are these guys who are making the toys using the locally available materials. So the parents are buying the toys, and then the child brings to school. So what do you expect me to do as a teacher? I will not give that child exceeding expectation, because we are failing to help this child in having a skill on how to make a toy. So parents, as much as we don't know, don't go into your pockets, don't dig into your pockets, just provide, and this child will come up with something. So I would recommend on the competencies. The thing is competencies. Let us major more on the competencies as we develop the designs in the learning experiences. Let us do them practically. Let them become key in the delivery of the content. And I believe at the end of it all, as you achieve your objective, there must be something. Then I also recommend the reports. If it is possible, let us have in the report, the formative part of the report, which contributes to 80%, at least it should be compulsory that there must be something like a skill that is analyzed in the reports. Most of the reports are like generally, and I appreciate, today I downloaded the NEC report, the grade 6 end year report. I'm administering the and national assessment. I'm the center manager. And I was able to tell when they started the grade 6 and class 8, when they started, I was able to see the difference. When the class 8s are done with mathematics, they look, yes, we are doing something, look stressed. But when the CBC learners were done, they were giving out the paper and going out and playing with their rabbits and doing the activity. So you could tell that they are relaxed. This is just, they are monitored. It is a monitored way of progress. The others could tell that there's something in them that if I don't, what if? But with the CBC, they know this is an assessment. They are very well relaxed. They know what they need in CBC. Yeah. So let us look at the reports. Let us look at the assessments so that they may at least accommodate all the learners. Look at the individualized learners. They are well accommodated in the CBC. You may find that they are not able, the doctor said that you may exceed in education academically, but you may find a very good individualized learner who can play volleyball very well. That is a skill. That is exercise. You'll find a very individualized girl who is able to clean and do tasks. That is well. Like in our school, we have an individualized person who does digital literacy perfectly. When you look at her, she's physically disabled. So we need more of this in CBC so that we may be able to accommodate each and every person in future.
And now that you're still on the floor, there's a concern here from Timbe Bernard. He says, I have a daughter who's going to grade 3 and son who will be joining PP1 next year. It's been so difficult for me to comprehend why class assignments are done on textbooks and not on exercise books. This is quite painful since these textbooks are very expensive, but then it's difficult for them to be reused if assignments are written on them. If there's anything that needs to be reviewed, then this issue needs to be top of the list, since it seems there's a concern there of people taking advantage.
Thank you so much for that concern. We have digital literacy, which is one of the competencies. And the workbooks are really helping a lot. We have the workbooks and we have the other textbooks. So not all of them are supposed to be written inside. So with the digital literacy, it becomes economical for us using the workbook, because at the end of the day, if I taught about a Bible, we have to improvise the Bible. We have to download and print the Bible or draw. So you find that maybe the portfolio will carry more worksheets than the workbook. So it is very good for us to use the workbook for the exposure and the cutting down the cost. Remember, in the CBC tasks, we are trying to cut down the cost, and the CBC workbooks are doing so well. Okay. So I would appreciate if he takes it positive and let it be.
All right. Can I get 1 or 2 more recommendations as we wind up? There's a concern back there, but let's come here. Yes.
Thank you so much for this topic. One thing I would recommend is at least to have a balance when it comes to curriculum, and also looking or putting in mind this parent who is in the country, up country, and the one who is in the rural. Sometimes it becomes a challenge when a child is given a homework to maybe Google, and there is this parent with a kamuli kamwizi. So for these two parents, these two kids to complete the homework, it becomes a challenge. We need to have a proper planning of the curriculum, and also let it balance both parents, the one who is able and the one who is not able. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. My name is Winnie. I work with All Mutual. I'm here as a parent, and my concern is, as a parent, or as parents, we are feeling that the content is too much, especially for grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6. There's too much, and too much introduction on in grade 4. And so my question is, CBC was meant to ease the testing, but now with so many subjects being tested, was this objective achieved? That is my question.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
Elizabeth Washira, counselor psychologist, and also an event organizer. Okay, my contribution towards the CBC, I would say that it's a good one. It's a great idea, but we need to team up. Parents and teachers, they have to work together to see at least the good outcomes from our children. even though it needs to involve the parent. Parents are trying a lot, but you see, the parents are working maybe late when they come in the evening. Maybe the children are tired, and others maybe they have already slept. So sometimes they are not able to help according to how they're supposed to do it.
All right.
The other thing is, well, it's a good one, but according to this transition, you see, like now, we are saying that they are going to join the junior secondary. We are worrying about our, is there enough space for these children?
Okay. All right.
Do we have the enough space for these children?
Okay.
The other thing, when it comes to the secondary, we are going to lose 2 classes. It's like now we are going to lose the 2 classes. How are we going to manage the financial stability of this institution? Because they are going to lose something.
All right.
Yeah, in the process.
All right. Great concerns there. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Trevor Mbija and the panel. Okay, so my concern is one. CBC is extremely good, but also at some point, CBC, it may be not that good.
Yeah.
Why? Because you may find in some parts of the country, like this school, it can manage itself, the way they teach their children, the way they carry out their activities. But now, when you move to other parts of the country, because this is something that I've seen, like let's say what the teachers are trying to say, the extended assignment, you may find that these materials that are being required during the class time, maybe they're not available. So, so the recommendation is maybe the government, they might come up with a solution to try and to neutralize, so that when these big schools, they can meet. Also, the lower schools, they can also do what? Meet.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Dailon.
All right, let me take one final comment here. There's yes, you haven't spoken.
Good evening, all.
Yes, good evening.
I would also like to contribute to answer the same. My name is Washira. I am in business. I would like to address the issue of capacity building, especially when it comes to teachers. Because as it is, we live through values so that we can fully adopt them. The other thing is, we also need to be skilled so that the same skills can be cascaded downwards to the learners. What efforts are being made? What efforts are being put in place by the government and also the formulators of CBC to ensure that the facilitators are fully equipped to cascade the information or to cascade the skills and values downwards to the children. The other thing is how much is being done to make sure that the looming cultural conflict is being handled, in the right way. Okay. The last one being, when it comes to CBC, how much is being done, to water down the worry that is with parents, especially when it comes to handing over the young children to secondary schools.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, great concerns there. We've really pressed for time. Now I'll come to Dr. Mutuleli to close this conversation in terms of recommendations very briefly and a response to some of the issues that have been brought up.
Thank you, Trevor. I'll put my recommendations. First, I would say if we are to succeed in this new curriculum, a lot of money, a lot of funds for research must be set aside. And these funds should be available to schools of education in the universities, because it's only when we do research that we can tell how to avoid maybe succeeding, how to avoid failure moving forward. Again, also, I would also want to recommend through the relevant regulatory bodies for teacher training colleges and also for universities, harmonization of the curriculum so that we don't have a situation where some of the universities who are training teachers are ahead of others in terms of maybe changing their training to produce a teacher who can actually train our students on these life skills, such that when they go there to implement, they will be able to teach these 21st century skills. So I would recommend that the review of the curriculum of all the universities, of all the teacher training colleges should be at par. Okay. The other thing, if we are to experience success in this CBC curriculum, then we need to recognize the role of the parents as key stakeholders in this process. Parents may not be aware of these things we are talking about, key competencies or 21st century skills. They may not be aware of what is learning to learn, what is this digital literacy, problem solving, and so on. So we need serious sensitization, and that's a call I'll make to the committee which is actually getting fused, that we need to set funds aside for sensitization of parents about CBC. What are these key competencies? So that if they get to know what they are, then we have their buy-in. And when we have the buy-in of that key stakeholder called the parent, the chance of success will be very high. Okay. Thank you, Trevor.
Dr. Ngina, closing remarks.
I think from this report we have seen that we have some role to play, all the stakeholders, whether you're a policy maker, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent. But what I've heard is that people are more concerned with the technical skills. But we need to know the importance of these 21st century skills, whether we want to call them soft skills, life skills, and values. Because if you trained now, and we are saying that in 2040, 2030, we might not know what will happen then. What we know is that you'll need your child or your youth then to be a critical thinker, to be a problem solver, to be a collaborator, to have self-efficacy, to know how to learn, ability to unlearn and learn new things. That is what we know. And so as a parent, as a teacher, then you have a responsibility to ensure that these skills are acquired. And training is very important. And so I call upon the Teacher Training Institute to really find ways of equipping the teachers with these competencies. And we should not be worried about where our children are going to go for junior secondary. I think that is why we have a task force. Yeah. And we are all waiting eagerly to hear what they are going to tell us. The only thing for me as a researcher in the space of values and life skills is that I know their importance. And at Zizi Afrique, we are doing research on the same. And we want many people to do something. Either it is research on how to measure them, either it is research on how to develop them, or even if it is research on how to develop them, because you need to understand them, to measure them, to develop them. Okay. Then you can have a holistic way of looking at values and life skills. But do our learners have values and life skills? I think we have a long way to go. All right. But we need to go up to that level where all of us have these core competencies.
All right. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to leave it there. We really pressed for time. Dr. Purity Ngina, Evidence Manager, Zizi Afrique Foundation, and Dr. Samuel Muteleli, Lecturer, Department of Education of Psychology at the Kenyatta University. Thank you so much. And thank you all for the contributions you've made this evening. This marks the end of our 6-part series of the CBC Blackboard. Special thanks to Zizi Afrique and to Sawa Agenda for making this conversation possible right here. And most important, thank you for being a part of it. My name is Trevor. It's always a pleasure having you with us. I'm sure we'll do this again some other time. But for now, it is bye from the entire team that made this possible. We say thank you and good night. And special thanks to the Panari Hotel for hosting us this evening. All right? Bye for now.